All right, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to share this song. This is a song that's encouraged me over the years, and I have no idea, obviously, what anyone out there is going through. But if you listen to the words, hopefully, it can encourage you, whatever it is that you're going through. It's called "Through It All." It's written by Andre Crouch. I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions for tomorrow. There have been times I didn't know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gave blessed consolation that my trials come only to make me strong. Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon His word. I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions for tomorrow. There have been times I didn't know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gave blessed consolation that my trials come only to make me strong. Said through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon His word. One more time, through it all. Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus, and I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon His word. Amen.
Thank you so much, Richard Butler, for that beautiful song selection.
No problem. No problem. That's all you needed from me, right?
That's it.
Okay. All right. I want to get out the way because y'all the professionals, not
Unless you
me.
wanted to sing a second song, Richard, then I mean we wouldn't be upset if you did that.
Towards the end, maybe he'll close us out.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, for now, I'm getting out of here. All
I'll
right.
text you. I'll text you. Okay. If you happen to be out in and out, I'll text you.
Okay.
Thank
Cool.
you so much.
All right.
All
I
right.
should say you're welcome. I'm sorry.
All right. So I did introduce. Okay. Well, again, my name is Chandelier. I'm your host, and welcome everyone. Go ahead. Next person, my hostess.
Co-host LJ, and I'm Go Talented 10th also. So Go Talented 10th or LJ, either one is okay. And if the panelists could introduce themselves and tell us how what they do related to grief.
Ladies first.
Thank you. My name is Tina Fornwall. I am the founder of Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, which is a registered 501c3 that supports the bereaved. And we'll get into more of those details as we have this conversation. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this discussion that is well needed in our world.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, we appreciate you having you. Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
Sir?
thank y'all for having me. And I'm excited to be on the panel with such amazing people, and you having a heart to be able to know that there are people out here struggling, trying to fish their way and swim their way through this thing called grief. And so I'm just honored to be here. I ain't gonna start crying because anytime anybody listens to me, I feel a certain kind of way, but that's neither here nor there. I'm Maurice Ball, and I pastor a church called Relevant Church. It's an online community, and I have been a certified life coach since 2010. But I've been in this space for a while. Personally, I process through grief, so that's given me some real life tangible experience to be able to talk to what I did to get out of my space.
Okay. We are expecting 2 other panelists. They're running a little behind, but we can start right now, right?
Yes, we go ahead and you can go ahead and go the first question. I have a feeling they'll come as soon as it's their turn, pretty much. So I
Okay.
think it'll work out well.
All right. So my first question is, can you describe your overall approach to supporting individuals who are grieving a significant loss, such as a relationship, a loved one, or even a job? Either one. Okay, Maurice Ball.
The first time I can't be greedy. I got to share.
Right.
You know, it's a respect thing. I'll say this. It all,
alive.
you know, it all depends on the situation, because all those different scenarios require something different, right? A loss of a loved one is I have to be more empathetic and sympathetic when speaking to somebody with the loss of a loved one. A loss of a relationship, I function a little bit different, because I'm kind of like, hey, you know, like, dependent on the situation, get over it kind of thing. But overall, I think that being able to be empathetic and sympathetic towards anyone with any kind of loss is the start, and allowing them a safe space to where they feel that they can land, and that you don't take their grief and turn it into a weapon and weaponize the way that they feel, so that they can start that process of becoming healthy.
Okay, awesome. Miss Tina?
Thank you.
Welcome.
To that question, it does depend on what the situation is and the person what they're grieving. I became the founder of Widowhood Real Talk with Tina because my husband of 29 years passed unexpectedly while we were on vacation. And that changed the landscape of my life forever. It's something I don't mention a lot. I am an ordained minister. I am a life coach. So the perspective of which I am supporting people is multifaceted. If someone is grieving the loss of a job, I think with all of the different things, first is to give somebody an opportunity to be heard, to validate their feelings, to give them an opportunity to speak out their situation, because if I'm not listening, I can't help you. So I need to give them space to, at length, discuss and say whatever their situation is, why they're feeling the way they are. And oftentimes it's not just the situation they're in, it's a lot of the circumstances around how they got there. So if it's the loss of a job, the conversation may start with the loss of a job, but why was the job lost? Was it just a shift in the economy? Was it a shift in the company? Or was it something personal that they have behaviors that need to change as far as how they show up in the workplace? If it's a relationship, those things can be very devastating, because a lot of times we seek validations from our partner. So the idea is, one, to understand yourself and who you are outside of this relationship versus who you were in that relationship. You should still be you, and giving people space to be able to validate that. Letting them know this is not the idea of just start having serial relationships, but to take time for yourself and understand who you are. Oftentimes, it can go back to the same thing. What was it in this relationship? Who was this person? Were they even a good match? Did you really know early on in this relationship that you probably wanted to break up with them, but did it just to not be lonely? A lot of different things to help them unpack the relationship. Was this breakup better for you than staying with them? Also, with that job, did it open up a door of opportunity that would not have created itself if you would have stayed? But first of all, giving them space to talk, then giving them asking more questions than I'm saying to allow them to reflect on themselves in the situation and help guide them to what their path is going forward. If it's the idea of a new job, then helping them assess what are their skills getting towards a new job, how to empower them and encourage them to be able to step back into the workforce because you can feel rejected. With the loss of a loved one, it is such a gentle process. It is a process to understand that being there and validating that person, allow them to talk about their loved one and the person that they're grieving is really important.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Miss Tina. Hi, Diva Mika, welcome. I wanted you to just introduce yourself, if you don't mind.
Hi, good night. I apologize for my lateness. Um, I'm dealing with a family crisis right now. I lost an aunt last week, so I am personally going through grief right now, and it's a lot. So it's interesting that I find myself in this forum, and I'm going through that process right now. Um, my name is Diva Mika. Well, my social name is Adiva Mika. I'm a, I'm a school psychologist. I work with students on the spectrum in New York City, and I'm a school counselor who um, deal with a lot of different things. Students on the spectrum, it means students that are disabled, they might have autism, all the different disabilities that you could think of. And one of the things that I do deal with, especially after the pandemic, was how these students get through grief after losing family members. So we have students, excuse me, I have toddlers, they're 3-year-olds. So if you hear the noise in the background, that's them. Um, um, so one of the things that I do also was I after the pandemic, I had to deal with that a lot more than before, especially in the special needs community. Um, so I deal with that with a lot of students. It's in the room. I'm sorry. A lot of students who have lost parents. For example, there's one student who I'm actually currently dealing with who is dad refused to tell the student that mom passed away. It's going on a year and a half. And I am starting to have a lot of emotions about that because he strongly believes that telling the student that mom is away in another country is how he wants to deal with it. It's been a year and a half. And, I respect him for the year. I have giving him all the resources that I could possibly think of. I'm hopefully that you guys could give me some advice about that. But I've done so many things and it's just not breaking. So I'm here to share some of the resource that I use as a school counselor for students who lost parents or other family member. That's like my specialty, like I mentioned. And I'm hoping to get some advice from you guys too on how I could move forward with that parent because that's really like the thing that's heavy on me right now.
Thank you, Diva Mika. Thank you for your introduction. I appreciate it. Okay, LJ.
One sec. Okay, we're not going to go in a particular order, and we're not going to pick them. We're not going to act like we're in class and pick on the person and say. I mean, as far as you guys go, we're not going to go. Diva Mika, it's your turn. Whoever wants to answer first, just jump right in, and we'll go from there.
Good. Yeah, I like that.
What are the first steps you take when someone comes to you in a state of grief?
I talk a lot, so I'm just saying, if you don't jump in, you're gonna be like,
Go
"Dang, you
ahead. I
talk the
talk a
whole
lot as well.
time."
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it goes back for me to that first question, giving somebody space to talk, to express why they're there. Because even though in my personal life, I may always be trying to finish your sentence, when you're coming to me to talk about your grief, you need space to talk about it. And I need to listen. And that is active listening. I am writing down notes. I am watching your body language and your posture to understand everything that's going on. I'm trying to listen to what you are not saying. I'm trying to hear your relationship to the grief. And I want to say that because grief, as you already expressed, is more than, and I don't say it obviously lightly, but it's beyond the death of a loved one. There are about 68 different things that people can grieve in their life. They could have relocated. They could have relocated, lost their job, broke up with their significant other, and then lost their mom. Diva Mika just spoke about people, the challenges people experience in the pandemic. People have lost significant loved ones, relocated to different jobs, and no one knew their past. You just see where they're showing up now. And usually, grief of the loss of a loved one is the item that usually makes everything else unbearable. People may have been able to handle what we'll say small losses, a loss of a job, a relationship. And it's like, I'll toughen that out. I can do this. I'm going to get back in there, keep it moving. But then someone you love, and I say present tense, because even though they may have transitioned from this world, that person still loves them. And that loss is like the straw that made everything else fall down. You will hear people lose their faith. They will be upset at God. They need validation to be okay with sharing honestly how they feel about their grief before you can move into identifying where you go from there.
Well, I think that I think people don't know grief. They don't know that they're grieving. So I think that's the first step, is to see the level of grief. Like for me, I didn't know I was grieving until I was already in the middle of depression. And so what nobody around me able to acknowledge or diagnose or anything like that. And so I had to figure this thing out when I'm at the crossroads of life and death, right? When I'm sitting here contemplating suicide, wanting the pain to stop, because unmanaged grief turns into depression. And so being able to assess what's the level of this grief, what coping mechanism, what are they doing to cover up the grief? So, some people cry, some people, I was a laugher. I made a joke about everything. And then when people asked me how I was doing, I was always fine. I was always good, right? Until somebody really asked me, how you really doing? So when you talk to people and they're saying, they're expressing their level of grief, and I'm talking more specifically for a loved one, because all that other stuff is whatever. It comes with a little pain. It comes with some adjustments, but it's not like the loss of a loved one. And when you can start to talk and say, assess where they are with that, then for me, I got to go beyond, like Miss Tina said, it's a listening behind the listening. What am I hearing, and what am I really hearing? What are you not saying that I'm hearing in your words? What little keys that I'm hearing say, oh, okay, that sounded, I hear the tone behind that word, or I see the body language in that. So when people come to me and I ask them how they're doing, and people, because we're taught in society to be tough and shield our feelings. I'm not gonna come to you and be like, yeah, I'm just a full out mess. Why? Because I need to hold myself together. Speaking personally, I thought my family was gonna fall apart if somebody seen me be weak. Right? Carrying the pressure and the weight of trying to hold the whole family together based on me. And after I got out of it, I was like, there was people that came before me, and there's gonna be people that come after me. How can I be the one to try to hold the whole family together? And so I internalized that, and I carried that. and nobody really dug deep. And then somebody asked me like, how you really doing? That made me stop. And when you ask me how I'm really doing, now I have to address those real life emotions that I'm having, because my surface level, my door is pretty good. Like, I can put this thing up and you won't know nothing. I'm good. But on the backside, I'm struggling with depression and I'm having suicidal thoughts, right? And then somebody just said, how you really doing? And opened that door and released all that stuff. So that's one of the things that I say is kind of like, how you really doing? Like, let's get to the realness. And that I'm good changes to, you know what? I'm really not doing too well. Now we can deal with the real situation, because that mask, if you wearing that mask, then only thing we're going to be able to deal with is the surface level stuff. Now, once you let that guard down and we can get to the real issue, now we can start to dig in and throw you a lifeline and start to pull you out.
So I'm going to come from a perspective that for my students, because that's my first love and that's my passion, my situation looks a lot different. One, because it depends on my students, if they are high function or if they're really low. Meaning, if their disability allows them to communicate what they're feeling, do they understand the emotions that they're feeling? So for my sessions, I have to do a lot of visuals or prompting without giving them the answers. So I do open-ended questions like, do they, because now I have to think, do they even understand the concept of death? Do they understand the concept of grief? Like, is mommy coming back? Where did mommy go? So that to get a better awareness of what that looks like for them, to see where we could start. In terms of their feelings, how do you feel that mommy's no longer around? Do you think she's coming back? Making sure that they understand, not referring to death as something that comes back, but associating with something that's gone forever, so that they could understand. So giving them something concrete, referring to an animal, like when you lose a pet, that fish is gone. Yes, mommy might buy a new fish, but it's not the same fish, right? So giving them concrete things to hold on to. And active listening. My students that are higher, seeing what they're saying, like, are they processing this? Is their family members talking to them? Are they talking around them? Like, I have some students who he heard before they told him, because everyone else was in the room talking, and he was like, I knew she's not alive. Like, they didn't want to tell me, but I know. So making sure that we're aware of the conversation that we're having, because then now he was coping and going through his grief before they even knew that he was aware that the mom had passed away. So just being aware that they're communicating, these things to the children for them to know, and providing resources. There's tons of resources out there, like so much resources out there besides, what they could get from the school community and, like you guys, or pastors, or the YAI, like the, Boys and Girls Club, supporting groups, giving them these resources that they have access to. But I think active listening is one of the biggest things that I really try to do when I just started my session with a student.
Thank you. All right. So another question that I have is, how do you, and you probably pretty much touched on this already, but you can talk about it again. How do you help individuals process and express their emotions during a period of grief?
So my perspective is a little different by having a nonprofit that is set up strictly to support people that are grieving. We have a weekly podcast that we put out, and we put out content across 5 different social media platforms. And the podcast and social content is across 99 different countries and over 3.4 million views. So I am actively having conversations with mental health professionals, people in the workplace, talking about how do you support an employee that is grieving. Our podcast is found on about 15 different podcasting applications. So if you look up Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, wherever you listen to podcasts, you will be able to find that. You may have seen some of my videos, August 4th to the 10th, we're having an event called Walk for Love. Because when people are actively grieving, they often feel like no one cares. They feel like the world has moved on and they feel like they are by themselves. So August 4th to the 10th, we ask people to walk at least 1 mile a day and place the hashtag Walk for Love and hashtag their loved one's name. And you may think, what good is that going to do? When you feel like you are by yourself and you can hardly breathe, and you see someone else bold and brave enough to hashtag their loved one's name, it lets you know that you are not alone. And that just like Maurice said, there was someone before you in this process and there will be someone after you. And that's a rope that you can tether onto to give you some hope. Some people have not left their home when a loved one passed. And so walking at home is perfectly fine. We do an event on November 9th called Dealing with Grief During the Holidays, where we have mental health professionals come together, because coming up to the major holidays in the Western world, those are a lot of memories and very triggering moments for people and how to deal with that. We have an in-person event in Norfolk, Virginia, where sponsors to my nonprofit support that and allow people to come together to have dinner. It's not a dress up thing. I'm about blue jeans. And just come and hang out, play games, and just realize, yes, this process may be hard, but you are not alone. So those are some ways, and it's not direct, but it allows people to connect and have community, because there is something so important when someone that lost their dad talks to someone else who lost their dad, or a sister or a family member, and creating that community for people to be able to know that their grief, even though it may be unique because our relationship and who we are was unique to the person that passed, the concept is very familiar to more people than, as Maurice said, that people want to admit and to be able to deal with. And when you're able to get past that barrier and realize your hurt does not have to be hidden, it allows people to talk.
Thank you.
I think experience has a lot to be able to do with this one. Being able to say, I know how you feel. My personal experience, my dad was unalived by a guy, so I understand it from that way. And then my mom passed of a massive heart attack, so I understand it that way. So being able to sit in circles and say, I understand, because there was a period in my life where I was the only one in my circle who didn't have either parent. Everybody else nobody relate to me. Nobody in my circle could relate to me. I couldn't go to none of my friends. They all had at least one parent. So I was the one that was the trailblazer that had to crawl out the bottom of the bottom to get out to be healthy. So in that, I created just some things that just work for me. But being able to just relate to somebody and just say, man, I understand. Let's go sit down. Let's go and getting them out of if you have the capability of changing the environment, pulling them out of a space where you can get in there. Because what can happen is grief can hold you hostage. And I lived in Alabama, and I met this guy who was an older gentleman. He was like, man, I used to march with Martin Luther King out here, and then my mom passed. And I was like, okay. But he had been on the street since his mom passed in 69, 70, right? Like he never got beyond that. That grief sucked everything out of him and held him hostage. And now he was homeless for 30, 40 years. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be actively pursuing getting healthy. And my part of it is creating the avenue. Hey man, let's just go walk. Let's go ride. Let's go do this. Let's go sit. Hey man, let's go get something to eat. Let's go do whatever. And the way that God has wired me and the way that he's built me, I'm an empath. So I'm able to absorb a lot of people's emotions and feelings, but I'm a different kind of empath because I don't internalize them. So I'm able to let you plug into me, and then I'm able to release that stuff so that you're not carrying all that weight. But just having somebody that you can just sit there and as Miss Tina was saying, build community is really big, because everybody think it's just them. Everybody think it. I'm the only one. No, you got to understand that ripple effect affects the family. So you're not the only one, even in the family, that's feeling the grief. I'm the only one that know you, so I get a chance to see it. But that grief is affecting everybody else differently. So being able to create spaces, being able to motivate and encourage and let them know that life still goes on. That's one of the things that helped me. Was I sat there when I was at the crossroads of life and death, and I said, you know what? My dad wouldn't want me down here doing this. He wouldn't want me living in this space. He wouldn't want me sitting here doing this. And so I started to think of the positive piece of that. Again, I experienced it on both sides. I experienced violence and I experienced natural causes. So I'm able to process on both of those and sit in any of those circles and say I understand, and just be relatable, and then just be a listening ear.
So you both made comments that I could piggyback off of. But Maurice, about being that support, that is me right now for my family. That's why I was late. I am big on, do you want me just to come and sit with you? Because I think that goes a long way. And people forget that those simple things mean so much. So my aunt that passed away, my cousin was an only child. So it's like, everyone's calling, and she's just like, cuz I don't know how to live in this space. Like, and everyone's like, why is she opening up to you? And I'm like, because I allow her to. I go there and I just sit. Or I just text and I say, I know it's probably hard to get up out of bed this morning, but I love you and I'm here if you want to talk. And they're like, and I'm like, just you don't have to say much. I think everyone wants to give the comfort and do big gestures and do all these big, amazing things to make you feel better. And at the moment, it's just that little thing that could be so small that provide that support that could help someone. So that support is major. Tina, your walk for love, I am definitely going to send it to my cousin. I love that. I'm definitely going to send it to my family as soon as I get off of here. I love that you are building community and a safe space for a community to heal and see that they're not alone. So thank you for sharing that. But I think support is really key.
Absolutely. Okay, Michaela Hudson, she just arrived. So I'm just trying to add her to the chat. She's another life coach or grief counselor that's part of the panel. I just sent your invite, Michaela.
Can I go back to something that Diva Mika said when you're done?
Yes, absolutely.
When my husband passed, people see me how I look right now. They, for some mysterious reason, think that this is how I looked when he passed. That is not how I looked. It has been 7 years. And when she said about just being able to get out of bed, there were weeks that I literally, besides going to the bathroom and laying back in bed and coming to the reality that this man no longer breathes on this world. We were on vacation together when he transitioned from this world. I am grateful to God that he was not alone, because that was his time to leave, but also the weight of that had me with PTSD for about 2 years, and still a lot of different things are very triggering. So my middle sister is the quietest of all of us, but she was in that space and just would watch TV with me or just do whatever. And that being with someone is so powerful. It's not always trying to get somebody to ask them a question, what do you want, da 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 da. Just let it be. And that space is so powerful. And I love the uniqueness and the similarities of all answers to this, because the way you're going to support somebody will take a combination of all the different things, because grief is heavy when you lose someone. We don't often talk about that in our world. We prepare to have children, we prepare for relationships, we prepare for all the things that we think are positive, but we don't really prepare about how when someone becomes an ancestor, how when someone leaves this world. It's a natural part of our existence. When I took those wedding vows, I said, till death do us part. I didn't think about the death of us parting. And those, to be able to have a conversation like this, because it is mind altering in a way that you can never articulate until you've traveled down that path.
Thank you. Hello, Michaela Hudson. How are you?
Hey y'all, I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late, but I be working.
I understand. I'm glad you were able to make it. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Michaela Hudson. I work full time at a funeral home. I'm a grief counselor. I just recently graduated from mortuary school in November. I graduated from college.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just graduated from college in 21. Got my degree in criminal justice psychology. And that's pretty much it. I'm just in the midst of just spreading awareness for grief. That's my niche. Because I'm experienced. And I have different experiences all the time, encountering people at the funeral home every day. So that's a different aspect of side that people don't get to see, you know. So I just want to make sure that we are continue to sharing genuine awareness to the world, because they definitely need it.
Okay, we're going to just go back to the most recent question. There were a couple of other ones before then.
Sure.
If you want to ask your question again, Chandelier.
The third one, right? The third
Correct.
one. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, Michaela. So, how do you help individuals process and express their emotions during a period of grief?
Honestly, basically, y'all really hit it on the head. In the midst of grief, everybody just wants somebody to listen. You don't always got to have a solution to everything. And I think once people understand that, it'll be better, because the main thing, people say the wrong thing and how they say it, especially church people, friends, you know. So I'm just very big on it's okay not to be okay. If you feel suicidal, if you feel like you about to lose your mind, but you always gonna come back. So it's always important to let them know that you said that, so they won't have to feel or be uptight or feel any type of way in your presence, or even virtually. Because normally sometimes I have clients that don't even talk to me, but until I start telling my story and how I felt and how I'm in the middle of the floor in college, losing my mind, screaming, my eyes swollen shut in the morning, sore, then they'd be like, okay, she know what she's talking about. Because a lot of people don't, connect, because they feel like you don't know how it feel and you're gonna be judgmental. So I feel like once I get that out, it's different. It's ball game. I done hit home and now they feel comfortable. So everybody is different. Every experience is different. I feel like you go at a person at what they give you. So that's how I attack the dealing with somebody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Just want to piggyback real quick off what you said. I feel like society has made us so like everything has to be happy. Like we got to be happy at all times. We need to be smiling. So when we get to that grief part, those raw emotion, those frustration, those I'm mad right now. Like, like just like I said to my cousin the other night, she was like, why did she leave me? Like, why did my aunt leave her? And I was like, okay, what else do you want to feel? Because I wanted her to get that anger out, because it is a part of her grief. Like, why should not her not be upset? And then my aunt is like, is it okay for her to say that? I'm like, listen, we're Western. I'm like, you know why you say nothing right now? She's letting stuff out. Don't talk. Like, let her let it out. Don't disturb her. Don't try to say she's not supposed to say that. You just stay over there. Like, she's talking. Like, don't stop her from getting that anger out, because then she gets quiet and she sits and you don't know how to process the silence. So now she's letting the anger out. Don't, try to sway her from it because it's not something that you want to hear. So it's good that we have to be comfortable with letting people know, like, scream, cry, like, it's okay. Get it out however you feel comfortable. I tell my students, let's go in the gym and kick something, like, kick it really hard, like, kick that wall. Like, I'm like, kick it harder. Like, whatever you need to get that out, because after you get some of that frustration out and that anger out, now you could sit in a different place and process certain things. So it's good that we're letting them deal with those emotions, those raw emotions.
Absolutely.
Can I mention one other thing that Ms. Hudson mentioned? I am so glad that you mentioned the unaliving word, because so many times people, when I'm speaking with them, there's a difference between I cannot understand life without them versus making attempts towards really removing yourself from this world. And oftentimes when I'm speaking with people, they use verbiage like, I don't want to be here. I can't live life without them. Those are not usually people that are actively moving towards removing themselves. But the concept of this world existing with their loved one no longer being here is devastating. And if they don't have a space to just say, I can't imagine life without them, without someone making them feel horrible, it's a difference. And being able to provide that space is so powerful.
I'm a part of that. You know what I mean? Like, I was standing at the crossroads when I say that me being on this panel, it is a blessing, because I was going down the laundry list of ways that I could take myself out. You know what I mean? Like, I was at that point. And here's the thing that I've learned about that. Really what we want to happen, we want the pain to stop. So I looked at it like this, and this is my process. So we have the pain and we have the life, right? Because the pain is attached to the life, the only way that we feel that we can end the pain is to end the life. And so I'm sitting here fighting, because this is one. This is one thing. I want the pain to stop. I want the pain to stop. So I'm looking at it like this. And I had to get real messy. And it took a lot of, it was bad. It was real bad. But I separated the two. And I still wanted the life, but I had to deal with the pain. So once I separated the pain from the life and realized that the value of the life of my life was there, now I can equip myself to deal with the pain. Now, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a process. It was messy. It was come hell or high water, but I separated the two, and now I can just deal with the pain. So when I hear those words and somebody saying that, my thing is to help you separate the two. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But when you can put the value onto the life and put the process onto the pain, then you are able to move people into being healthy. And I'm personally just speaking for myself, because that's what I did.
Okay. Thank you guys. LJ?
Okay. What are some of the coping strategies that you recommend to people that are dealing with grief?
I think we're all probably going to say something different. But it's different. Like everybody done already said something different as to how we kind of help people cope through it. They're the ones who are here that have the clinical things, they probably have more resources, but it really just varies for me. It just varies on, it just varies. I can't give you one thing, because whoever person A is going to be different than person B. And so they're going to need different resources. The situations are different. Everything around them is structured different. Support systems are different, because that means a lot too, right? Like person A might have an amazing support system. Person B might not have any support system. So, it becomes about how do you navigate those places and those spaces, and what's going to work best for that particular person.
I agree. Everyone's going to be different. So because I work with students on the spectrum, I have a few strategies that I try to give to parents. One of them is a goodbye letter. Um, and it's kind of it gives them some verbiage. So like they'll start and say, I'm saying goodbye because you taught me. I have an example in front of me because I made sure I print some stuff out. I remember a time when we, something I want you to know, and I always remember. So it's a basic letter, and I tell parents, you could do it with them, or you could have them do one by themselves, and you go it over together. Um, you could have them put it somewhere where they could see it, or ask them what they want to do with it, because at the end of the day, they need to have a say so in what they do with this. Um, I also suggest maybe like a memory box. So, if they have like treasure things that they loved or their parent, maybe an earring or a necklace, maybe a special toy, a Uno game that they always played together, like put it in like a Ziploc bag, and, this is what mommy and I used to play with, and put in that memory box somewhere that's accessible to them. So whenever they need to get to it, they could go and sit, have pictures in there. They could go and sit and remember that, and grieve and go through that process. Um, and then also, I try to have them do outside counseling. So besides getting counseling from myself in school, I will suggest to them and try to find them some resource that they could go to help them. And I do suggest family counseling. So let's say they lost a mom, I'll say to the dad, you should try to get family counseling with you and the kids, or try to invite maybe a grandparent or someone else, so you could build that support system that could help, that child. So those are some of the tools that I use with my students for coping.
Thank you, Viva Mika. Michaela, would you like to share?
Okay, yes. My number one thing is journaling, because when you journal and write, you got so much expression that you can't get out to other people. But when you start writing on that paper, like, it just come out. And that's how I got help when I was in college. In my spiritual formation class, there'll be days where I couldn't come to class because I was just in a bad state, in a bad place. So he just said, Michaela, just write. And he would give me like journal entries. And he was like, if you and God was at the beach right now, what would you say? And I would literally have because I write small, I have like 4 pages of construction paper, front and back, just writing. And sometimes I don't write without a title. I just sit in my emotion and be like, what am I feeling right now? And I just write. And what I do is, spiritual or not, I pray over it. I put it in my journal. I put it in my little jar and close it. And that's the way that I deal with it. So even with my clients, we do a lot of journaling.
That's cool.
That's good. That's really good.
I agree with everything everyone mentioned. A lot of other different things to consider. Going for a walk can help you reset yourself mentally, take you out of the space. I love when Maurice said that need to untether ourselves from the life and the grief, because changing your position of where you are sometimes allows you to think differently than what you were doing, and being able to connect with nature, being able to get outside, look at the greatness of the world. Some people have gotten into art, realizing that they can be creative. There are adult coloring books. There are coloring books for children, connecting and with support groups, having the ability to do things that are healthy and helping people identify things that are not healthy coping skills that will not serve them well in the process. One of the other things is being able to go work out. It may be to a park that has an activity area that you can go from one station to another. It may be in the gym, going back to what Diva Mika said, being able to hit something. I mean, I turned into kickboxing like ain't nobody's business. Like I was ready to knock something down. But you have that stress that you need to relieve and free yourself of it, and allowing yourself to cry, to know the release of those tears. So many people run and fight and try to hide and keep those emotions on lock, and they're just putting one brick on top of another on their shoulders that they're carrying. And then when they finally cry and release, they are lighter for that concept, and they're able to just, okay, it wasn't that bad. They're like, this, if I do that, it's going to take me out. I'm never going to come back. And it's like, that's the point of liberation, and to embrace that those different things that you're doing are going to be part of your grief journey. It may be part of your healing. It may be having a friend to talk to. It may be able to say, be honest with your feelings, that I feel hopeless. I feel like this is never going to change. I feel like I'm going to be stuck here forever, and validating those feelings, because sometimes people are not ready to see something different. They just want to know that where they're at, are they doing their grief right? Does this look okay? And to give them the acceptance of knowing that that's fine. Yes, Lisa, sometimes a hug can go a long way. I actually just made a post about that, this lady at work, that our silence can show up very loud if we allow it to.
That's good, Miss Tina.
Yeah, we own a kickboxing gym, and part of our part of the thing that we did, yeah, we had a lot of people come in there that was grieving, that can kick and punch that bag as hard as they want to, yell at it, cuss it, do whatever they wanted to do, express themselves without judgment. And I think that's one of the things that we gotta be able to do. Express yourself without judgment. If you mad, be mad. Like somebody just said that, be mad. If you gotta cuss, cuss. And here's the thing: God is a loving Father, right? And you can be upset with God. He's okay with that. He wants you to come to Him in your raw, uncut, unfinished, however you gotta say it, and just say it. And this is a side note. So for all the religious folk in here that be like, "Oh, God, you shouldn't say that to God," and God is the. I don't know what God you serve, but the one that I serve, I can come to Him however I got to come to Him and express myself however I need to express myself, because He's the God of the universe and He won't be offended. So it's a matter of not just being judged while you not judging someone within their grieving process. Somebody just put a comment in there that said their father tried to make them not cry during the grieving process. How you gonna do that? How you gonna tell me what to do and how I grieve? Now I'm gonna be mad at you. Now I'm about to ready to throw these things, and it's gonna be a problem, right? Because now you're trying to have me to pin up my grief, and that's my outlet. So how does that come out? It comes out violently. It comes out in attitudes. It comes out in behaviors. It comes out. It could lead me to some kind of addiction or some other means of coping or masking it. So I just want to tell that person, do you, because you're grown. However you got to do you. And not be a prisoner to what somebody else think, or how somebody else think that they think you should grieve.
Good stuff.
Hey, one of your followers has a comment, Maurice, about always looking forward. He said that you shared that with them and it helped them tremendously.
Kev, yeah, that's one of the things that you can't stay in that space. If you get comfortable in that space of grief and just settle and let it settle in, and you just, I I think Michaela said it. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. Right? It's okay to be in that. It's okay not to be okay. I'm not good right now. But if I live there, that's the problem. So being able to move forward and process and keep your eyes moving forward is the thing that helps you not settle into that space and find yourself where I was, which is in the middle of depression.
All right. So, thank you. So, how do you decide whether individual counseling or group support sessions are more appropriate for grieving individuals?
That's a good. I can only speak for me. Like, I'm not a licensed counselor. I'm not a licensed therapist. Well, I'm a licensed counselor through Christian stuff, but not in this. And it's hard. Like, sometimes if it's more than I think that I can handle, I'm gonna definitely refer you to some more to more help. I can't fix you. I don't have all the answers. So I would definitely try to say you might need to get into you might need to go seek some real professional help, somebody that can dig deeper than what I am. And depending on how close we are, I might be too close to try to really start to help you process through that particular level of grief. So it may need to be somebody else, and I just come along and just be a support and a sounding board for you. But if it's way more than what I think I can handle, I'm definitely referring you to somebody.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely agree with that. In terms of the personal, um, let's say, for instance, with my situation right now with my aunt, with my cousin, I am a sounding board, but I did offer her, like like I said, Miss Tina, I'm going to share your platform with her so she has something besides me, that's there for her. In terms of my students, I do suggest that parents do both individual and group counseling. Um, I just feel like sometimes students or people are able to share more when they're by themselves and they're not with family members. You could get a lot more out of them. I know that some of the times the things my students share with me, and parents will be like, no, he doesn't talk, he doesn't say anything. I don't know how he's feeling. And I'm like, oh, in session I get a lot, without disclosure. And I do get a lot. So I do feel like individual counseling is very important, but I also feel like that group counseling um, builds that support and that community. It also allows people to be respectful of other people and what they're going through so that they could sympathize and see that everybody grieves different and learn different, coping mechanism. So I am a big believer in both if possible, because a lot of the times, family members, well, thank God for technology now, we don't have to leave our couches. So now we could have over the phone or, via the internet and stuff. So that has gotten better. But if possible, I think both is really, really good.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Maurice what he said. That's why it's important to do consultations and sometimes to kind of see what a person is, because I know, like in our program, they definitely teach us to distinguish between grief and trauma. Some stuff is just out. Some stuff is just out of the, out of the box for me. And if it need be to be for me to place you with someone else, that's what I do, because I'm just specialized in grief. And I do understand life, but you kind of want to stay in what you're in so you won't kind of outburn or burn out yourself. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to skip around a little bit, if you don't mind. How do you provide ongoing support to individuals who are experiencing prolonged grief?
I just be available.
For me,
I do social stories for my students. A lot of social stories. So I don't know if everyone know what social stories are, but just making stories that's relatable to them, getting pictures and making those stories. So let's say, for instance, like we said, they're still grieving. It's been a year, and the dad might say, he's still waking up at night crying for mommy. Then we would make the story centered around what the information that dad had given us. So, um, you know, Timmy wakes up at night crying for mommy, but mommy's no longer with us. What is Timmy supposed to do? And then we'll add some of the strategies that we talked about in counseling on how he could, cope. Timmy could maybe lay down with dad, or Timmy could, um, you know, Timmy could lay with dad, or maybe Timmy could take one of his comfort toys to use, or get one of mommy's favorite, thing that he had that he cherishes, and put it in his bed next to him. Just, so we make these stories so it's relatable to them and it's in the now. So that's why they're called social stories. Especially with students on the spectrum, those visuals are very helpful to them, and it makes it more concrete, like I mentioned before. And I definitely being available with Maurice, definitely being available to the family. Miss, they'll say to me, this is not working, or try this, and I'll say, let's try something else. If I feel like I don't have enough information again, then I will try to give them access, or, see what insurance they have and say, okay, maybe we need to dig deeper and have you reach out to someone else or try something different, because maybe I've tapped out on all my resources that I have. So maybe I need to go in and be like, all right, Miss Tina, what do I need to do here? Or Maurice, do you know somebody that could, maybe help with this parent? So tap in on the people that like, this community, like, okay, I know this grieving community and this parent needs it. So give them access to other persons who could help them also, because maybe you don't have that next step that they might need, but someone else, like Miss Tina, that walk for love, like, it wasn't in my vocab, but now I know. I'm definitely gonna have them looking for it. Like, go ahead and do that. Like, I'm gonna do it this week for my aunt. So that's something added that I'm able to give them that I never had before, and now I could add it into my toolbox for coping mechanism. So just getting resource from the connections that also is a good thing to do also.
One of the things for me is disbanding the idea that grief is going to be over in a year.
That's
Um,
good.
Unfortunately, our society, and because when my husband left this world and the year passed, I was like, he's still dead though. Like, he don't come back. Like, why y'all think it's like I'm good in a year? I'm like, what happens after that year is you have a thing called you can look this up, either grief brain, grief fog, a mental fog. But when you experience the passing of a loved one, your brain has experienced that like trauma. And what that trauma will do, your prefrontal cortex will no longer be the most active part of where you're using life, but it is your amygdala. And so your fight and flight response starts to take over. So if you were strategic and you were planning, and I needed to look that up immediately because on average, I'm a high functioning person. But when my husband left this world, I could not remember what I was doing that day. I used to keep a little notepad that I had to remember. I need to do what? What do I need to do? And to be able to understand that. So when people realize it may that grief fog may take, it depends on the individual. It can last 6 months, it can last 3 years, because it depends on how your brain is going to come out of that trauma. So first, disbanding the idea you're going to be better absolutely in a year and you can just go on. That's a bunch of hogwash. That is not how it works. Also, disbanding the idea that there are 5 stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, when those were developed for people who were leaving this world from cancer, and they did research with them to identify what were their stages in their mind process of transitioning. People have taken those stages and flipped them around and said this is how people who are losing a loved one grieve. And our grief is more likened into an emotional wheel. If you were to look that up, it would show almost 164 different feelings and attributes that can go on in the way grief in your life can be displayed. Because if someone's saying, well, my grief is in denial, I'm not in acceptance, I'm not in anger, am I doing this right? And it's a year has passed and they're thinking I should be fixed by now, which is something someone else mentioned, and realizing this still hurts. This is still impacting my life, and validating that, and educating people, because even though we are going to lose someone, we don't know a lot about how it impacts us and how we're going to feel. And for me, education is power. And the more that I learn about it, it made me go, okay, I just need to keep a notepad because I don't remember stuff. That's a coping skill. I don't feel like taking a shower and nobody's coming over, so all y'all miss me with that. But that's okay because I'm struggling to just say Tina without saying Tina and Mark. And so when it's gone on longer than what people think it should, that's really how it works. And when you validate for that for someone, it allows them to say it's okay. And one of the things that Maurice spoke about, we got to watch what we tell people. We got to watch what we say, especially in in people of faith. They want to throw you a one-liner verse, and you like, did you think that was helping? What did you think you were doing with that? What was in your mind that when you were going to say that it was going to deliver? But oftentimes people are trying to check the box because the person's grief is too uncomfortable for them to be around and bear. So they kind of want to make sure that they've neatly done the Christianly or faith thing, and now they can go on with their life. And they probably, unfortunately, have caused more damage than good. And the reality is less is better. Just be quiet, give me a hug, and keep it moving. But if what you're saying isn't going to invoke and empower me to change, you probably have made this situation worse. And I'm sure everybody that has lost a loved one has about 2 or 3 scenarios that they can come instantly where somebody says something and they made a choice to whether use it as an educational moment or to choose to just let them walk off in their abyss to think that they did something because it wasn't worth their energy.
Or get ready to put hands on them.
I was trying,
I mean, you know.
okay, so why
do
do you think it's called widowhood? I'm from Chicago.
Okay, Southside Chicago. You Southside Chicago?
I graduated from Corliss. Yes, I did.
Okay. Oh, so you got a little gangster in you. I know Southside Chicago.
So widowhood is called that because when my husband passed, somebody else mentioned it, it didn't just impact me. It impacted his family, his brothers, my children. My siblings grew up knowing my husband like it was their uncle. That it is a community that is impacted when a loved one leaves this world. And if we try to act like it's singular focus, we're missing the whole concept. But yeah, so hood, please know that.
I think the moment somebody tells somebody who's grieving that there's a time step on that the moment you do that, the moment you put that person in a box. Because now I'm working against your timeline. You know what I mean? Like you told me in 6 months I should be good. I'm not good. So now I'm stockpiling failures, right? So now I don't think nothing's going to work because you gave me some suggestions. You gave me a timeline. I got on your timeline. And now these things that you're suggesting created these failures, which is adding to the termites and the cancer that is in here that is creating this weak floor. And now you fall through the bottom of it. So now anything that you suggest that could be the best thing ever to happen, I'm not going to be able to do it because in my mind, I failed the last time you attached something to me because you put me on the timeline. So if anybody in here is dealing with that right now, somebody done put you on the timeline, in my most nicest way, in my most pastoral way of saying this, and but being hood, that timeline. You know
I
what I'm
put my
saying? Like,
collar on so I can be having a conversation
hey,
with you. I'm gonna go get my collar.
I
real
mean,
quick.
because you know, I'm not going to let your timeline add more stress and grief to what I'm already doing. So, you know, just walk away from the situation. To be honest, just walk away and
It
know
was
that you don't have to.
yeah.
You do not have to be on anybody else's timeline. Grief is a process. It took me several years to process out of my dad's thing. Several. And by the time my mom passed, I had already crawled out of the darkness because my dad passed and took me to the dark side. So I know how to navigate in the dark. And when my mom passed, I was good. I didn't have to go to the dark side because I understood it, you know? So, and the processing time was shorter because I spent so much time in the darkness.
Switch it on.
I want to share when I say
And
people
and
say
this
things. It was the week of my husband's service. The week. We had not had his service yet. And someone told me, you should be happy he's in a better place. And I looked at them and I was like, okay, so do you, first I'll ask them, do you like your spouse? Because that's the place I need to start at, because maybe they didn't. So that's how they felt that way. And they said, no, I love my wife. I said, so imagine you and your wife on vacation for the weekend. What is that called? Booty call weekend. I don't care. Say what you want. And they had a massive heart attack after a wonderful night before and left this world. And I was looking at them like I could be like all up in their eye. And they said, I would have been devastated. I said, every time you get ready to open your mouth and say something to me, I want you to think of all of that right there. And they paused and they said, okay, because we repeat these empty platitudes, thinking that we're doing something until someone educates us because we are ignorant and don't know better. But when someone then takes the moment to relieve somebody, like Maurice said, and to share, now you take that knowledge and you choose to do better. Because if not, you're hurting people, giving them false information and expectations and leaving them worse than better. So it is really important, like he said, to make sure that what you're saying is factual, that it's going to just be how it's going to be, because if not, you'll leave somebody worse than better.
And not only that, just think what your mom used to tell you when you were growing up. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Don't say anything at all.
and going back to what I said when I was introducing myself about the situation and that parent, Miss Tina, when you mentioned that it takes a community, like I have to remember, even though he wasn't with the mother of his child, he's still grieving her. So him not telling his son, it has a lot to do with him also, because it's like, here I am still processing and I can't handle it. How is my baby going to handle it with special needs? And I get that. But a part of me still is like, I need that baby to know. Because telling your mom is in Puerto Rico is not okay. Like, it's been a year and a half.
And here's
So,
what I would say to that: if that was somebody I was rapping with, what I would definitely say is you are damaging your credibility in the long term, because you are straight out telling this child a lie, who eventually will get older and know that you lied to them for so long, which means that everything that you say to them will no longer be valid, even in the moments of you trying to tell them something important. And I was talking to a young lady, and she was probably 65, and she was telling me, like she don't really trust her parents. And I'm asking her why. And she said, well, if they lied to me about Christmas, and they lied to me about the Easter Bunny, and they lied to me about the Tooth Fairy, I couldn't trust anything that they were saying. And I know these situations are extreme, but at the end of the day, the continual base, and I would approach him and say, man, you messing yourself up. Because long term, you're going to have some man stuff that you're going to have to say to this baby, and they will not receive it. Why? Because you are being selfish. That's a selfish move. You can't put you're trying to put that baby's grief and bring them into your space so they can grieve like you grieve. No, let the baby know so the baby can start to form his own coping mechanism and his own healing process and all this other stuff. The longer you prolong it, a year and a half, the baby don't know that I will, man, smack that boy. I mean, grab him by his. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to get flagged. Shake some sense into
No
him.
hands, Maurice. No hands.
I'm just saying, like
No
it makes no
violence.
sense. A year and a half that you are continually, because one lie turns into two lies, that turns into three lies. So think about it: a year of lying, a year and a half of lying. That baby ain't gonna have no trust in anything you say in the future. That's what I was saying.
I get it. I get it. You are right, but we'll talk more another day.
Inbox me.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Well, we have about 10 minutes left before we open up the boxes. So I have a question. I think we touched briefly on this, but let's see if we can dive a little bit more deeper into it. What role does self-care play in the grieving process, and what self-care practices do you recommend?
That's heavy. Because
I'm all about self-care, so yes.
when I was in college, as a college basketball player, I gained 25 to 30 pounds as an active person that run over 6 miles a day because I was eating through my depression. So I feel like during the grief process, you're going to go through that. You're going to go through the up and down of your weight. You're going to go through the part of losing yourself. You're going to go to the part of looking in the mirror, don't even know who you're looking at. But I feel like that's just like a part of yourself that you have to shed, that's going to have to shed when you go through it. And then when you go through it and endure and come out the end like a warrior like I am now you can see. But I feel like until you get to this side of the acceptance at the bottom of it, then you'll be able to realize what you need to do for yourself. And that's making sure that you're eating right. That's making sure that you're going to the gym. That's making sure you're going to get your nails done, going for a walk. The sun did help me. That was very, Miss Tina, I heard you when you said that going outside and just getting some energy from the sun really helped me. It gave me peace because I didn't have peace in my room. I didn't have peace in my bed. I didn't have peace in my sleep. I didn't have none of that, but outside did something for me. So I would say definitely, when you go through the grief, you're gonna forget about yourself. But when now you have these reality checks and people out here that's with you and have been through this journey to tell you certain things. Hey, you need to do this. Don't do that. Instead of then eating this, eat something healthy. Take a snack. And it's hard to eat while you're grieving as well. Sometimes you want to eat, sometimes you don't. Because it's like your appetite is gone. And sometimes you get full fast because the inside is just so empty. So that's normal though. That's normal. You're not crazy. You're just going through a process. So like I said, once you get to the acceptance side and you start to see things better for what it is and realize that then if they are in a better place than we are, then you will have more sense about how you deal with grief.
Thank you, Michaela. Anyone else want to share? Self-care?
Yeah, I'll say it's one of those things where you can't I'm sorry, I didn't turn my camera off. Oh, how did I do that? I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Here's one of the things about self-care. You can't allow the grief to be the dead end of your self-care. Meaning that I'm on this path and grief is right here. And so this path, the grief stops me from continuing into my self-care. I stop at grief. You have to be able to bypass that and continue, like Michaela was saying, continue the things that you do. But if grief is the cutoff and grief is the end, and then all your outlets that you have grief at the end of them, all that's going to do is push you further down into the depression, and it's going to be very, very difficult to climb out. Once I started to push down those grief walls in my outlets, I was able to get that energy. I was able to go outside. I was able to eat. I was able to take a shower. I was able to do the basic things that grief stopped because I allowed it to be the wall. And it's not the wall, it's just the speed bump into the process of you processing into your healing.
Good stuff.
Okay, we're going to the next question. How do you maintain professional boundaries while providing empathetic and effective support to grieving individuals?
I think one of the first things for me, and I think Maurice mentioned this, is realizing I can't fix it. No matter what it is I can do, I cannot fix that for them. And that puts me in perspective of my humanity and my limitations, what I'm capable and not capable of doing. That sort of baselines me, my role. And I feel like this is my God-given assignment to serve humanity as people are grieving. But in doing that, I can share with them information, but I need to, one, accept that I am not dictating how their grief journey is going to be. It's not a toddler that I'm telling what to do. I am hopes of empowering them, educating them, strengthening them to go on their own journey with this grief and how they choose to handle that. I need to respect that. I need to respect if what they're doing, if it's not hurting them, if they're growing and they're going about and they're doing, I need to accept that. Because if not, then I'm crossing over a boundary because they have to, at 12 o'clock at night when you can't sleep because the silence is so loud. I can't be there. I don't want them to think that I am there. I am not creating a situation that I am their be all and end all, but I'm giving them, sharing books, giving them information, helping empower them to be able to know that within them is the ability to continue on this journey, and it does not have to be the end of their road. And if I keep myself in perspective, it helps me stay in perspective when I'm helping and encouraging somebody else.
Okay. I'm going to end it with this question, and then I will open up the boxes to see if any of our people below would like to come up to ask you guys some questions as well. So can you share any success stories or examples where your intervention made a significant difference in someone's grieving process?
So I have a widow. One success story for me: when your partner leaves, it's very hard to sleep in their bed. It's very hard to be in the bed that you were in with your partner. And for a year and a half, she has been sleeping on her couch. And she is finally able to get back in her bed and sleep through some different coping skills I suggested. Like Maurice said, the road is hard, it is arduous, but when you do the work, it is beneficial. Sometimes people think, well, if you just let time pass, it'll be okay. It does not work like that. If you do not lean into this pain, this grief, and do the self-work, you will find 5 years pass and you are right where you started. And so for her to be able, she showed me pictures of the bedroom. It was a big closet. For her to just take the steps to go in there and clean it out, and then to be able to sleep in the bed and her to update me on that, I know that how I'm serving her is worthwhile and it's helping her son.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share a success story? Or any examples?
Louise, I thought you were going to say yourself. So,
I am a success story for myself.
there you go.
I'm telling y'all, if you ever been at the
If you're going to show
crossroads of
yourself, you
life
got
and
to
death,
take out your bubble.
and you are contemplating and you're going down a laundry list of things on how you gonna do it, and I'm talking about there's a shoestring keep it between you and the ledge. And that shoestring is flimsy. It ain't even pulled tight. I'm talking about that thing drooping. And to be able to be here and again, I'm honored anytime anybody wants to hear anything that I have to say about anything. I am always grateful. But I also know that somebody could be walking around with my picture on the shirt that says "in love and memory of." And so I am just okay, I'm done because but yes, I'm the success story.
Okay. All right. Monica, I just saw you unmute. You have something to share? A success story or any
I
examples?
I do have a family member that checks in. The student is now in middle school, and Aunt said he's doing really well. She does say that she does have him go to session once a month. It's not as much, but she says she does that so that, he has like an open space to let out something if he's not telling her. Um, so the fact that she still checks in with me as a counselor after helping him after what happened, a year, because it was during his last year, um, it really shows that she appreciated what I did after me no longer being his counselor. So I thought that was really good that she still checks in and she still wants to keep me updated on how he's doing and how he's processing and moving along and how she's doing. Because, that was her sister too. And she took on her sister's son. And just for her to, share memories of her sister with him and she still tells me that she still, try to get some counseling. She does want to go more. She thinks she needs more because she said sometimes when he asks questions, sometimes it's hard for her to like relive that, because it was her sister. So I'm happy that she sees me as a support still and still values my opinion, even though I'm no longer his school counselor.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So it's now about that time to open up the boxes. If you would like to come up to ask one of our panelists a question, please send me a request and I'll happily bring you up.